If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. Well, cool. Well, let's get started. So we've got a very special guest today. And if everybody can, please go on mute. Please go on mute. If not, I'm gonna have to regulate on you real quick. So let me see to find a couple of mute buttons here. So, hey, Mary, how are you? Mary Jane, good to see you. Tamiko, all right, I gotta regulate on the mute button. All right, there we go. I think it's nice and quiet now. All right, so we got a very special guest today, and today we're joined by my good friend Marist, and coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee, and she is a marketing guru. That's the best way I like to sum it up, so all things marketing and everything else. So anyways, I got to meet Marist was at the Atlanta event, my first speaking opportunity, actually, which we've shared that story a couple of times, where this is the thing, we talk about this too, right? Going to conferences, meetings, always opportunities there. For me, it's about the relationships, it's about the meetings, it's about the people, a lot more than the information most of the time. Information is great, but it's really the people you can connect with, and you just never know how things will come back around. And so this is Marist, who I met almost 2 years ago now. It's probably around 18, 20 months ago was that event and my first speaking opportunity. And as I shared, I wasn't even the chosen person. I got chosen by default. So their first pick for YouTube canceled and they happened to see me on the roster and really barely knew of me, but thought they'd give me a chance, and which was Giselle running that, and she asked me to speak. So I was the pinch hitter for YouTube that day, but from there it's been a complete a compound effect and snowball of events. What's up, Krista? I'm gonna have to go back on gallery. If you can, please go on mute when you come in. Let's remember our Zoom etiquette, please. So, it's been 2 years, people, since the pandemic. Let's go. Let's get our Zoom etiquette in line. Come into the room on mute, please. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. We always like to get to as many people as possible. But I got to meet Marist there, and we've been friends ever since. And just everything that she does on marketing, very spot on, and she does a lot in that field, especially working with coaches, consultants, agents, and helping them develop their brand and their presence and video and all that good stuff. So, Marist, welcome. How are you today?
Hello, Levi. Hey, everyone. I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here. I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, Levi, I'm pumped that we're finally doing something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there any more on your background that you could expand for us as far as specifically what you work on in the marketing arena?
Yeah. I'll give you my really quick overview. I was an assistant for an agent probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And I learned very quickly that real estate agents needed custom marketing support that they weren't really getting at that time. And so in 2015, I decided that I was going to start a marketing company. I like to refer to it more as like a boutique agency, because my goal has never been to make it really big, but to make it very specific in terms of like who I work with and how I work with people. I've expanded now over the years to work with agents and teams all over the country. We're completely virtual now. And my specialty, I like to think of it, is focusing on repeat and referral business. So where that differs a lot, especially from like standard like social media gurus, as people will call themselves, or people to be known as, is I have kept a very adamant approach to social media for nurturing and building relationships, not only with people who I already had in my sphere, but who were referred to me. So I'm not your girl that's going to be like overly focused on lead generation of new people, just because I'm so passionate, like Levi was saying, about relationships and connecting. And so I do that through helping people with their individual brands. We do anything you would hire an in-house marketing person to do with like newsletters, touch points, events, all that kind of stuff. But it's very, very geared towards sphere. And I think that that's kind of where I plug into the marketing world.
Awesome. Well, maybe we should hire you. I think we need a lot of help on that. That's something that as fast as we've been moving, I mean, that's definitely something we've identified as this year is we have to do better on building, I would say solidifying the relationship. Clearly through video, we talk about video builds the relationship for you. So people come to you with the relationship intact, but it's our job to keep that relationship intact. And that can fall apart anywhere during the transaction. That can fall apart in the initial meeting if you're not the person who you appear to be on video or can do the job as you present. That's an issue. But I believe the real relationship does happen after the transaction, and that is something to where we definitely want to work on that. So yeah, let's chat a little bit more about that. Yeah. One-on-one, but let's get into adding more deals to your pipeline using social media, but also the relationship building. Do you have what would you say would be one of the first things? Which path do we want to go down? Do we want to go down about relationship management, sphere, and referral, working through that area? Is that what you'd like to chat about?
Yeah,
okay.
I would say that.
Okay, so what would be starting off? What's kind of a process as far as where should we start looking at? I mean, I know that a lot of people in this group are very video conscious, so we could probably start there maybe with some tips on what we could do better on video, and then let's kind of just walk through that. So attraction, let's talk about attraction through video, and then once we have conversations with them, working through the transaction, and then post transaction. So what would be some ideas that we could implement on video to help out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say where my focus with video always starts, and where I recommend that people spend a lot of time on video, is when you're first starting out and you're trying to get comfortable, would be to show up in your stories on video. I think that people will jump a lot of times, what I've seen with agents, knowing that reels and video is so important, that before they get really comfortable on camera, they'll kind of jump the gun in getting, like sitting down a camera and posting on TikTok or reels, or just trying to overly like capture video when they're in houses, and they haven't really done any of that personal work with themselves on their relationship with the camera, how they come off when they're talking, how they're connecting with their audience through speaking, and what people are kind of drawn and attracted to. And I think that your sphere and the people who are already following you are your best kind of guinea pigs for seeing what are people paying the most attention to when you are showing up and talking on your story. What are you getting the most interactions on? And because you can follow very closely view count, like who's viewing your stories, if you're throwing polls on your stories or questions on your stories, if you're doing a walkthrough through a house and asking people to guess the price or guess the location or guess the number of beds and baths based on certain criteria, then you're kind of warming your audience, your existing audience, up to hearing your voice and seeing your face on camera. But also it's kind of like a blueprint, like success on social media. I think it's super important to pay attention to insights and knowing who your audience is. And y'all's audience is not going to be the same audience that Levi has or that another agent has. Like everyone has their own unique, group of people who are drawn and attracted to you. And so focusing on trying to rip off and duplicate a strategy everyone else is doing is not always the best approach. So I would say getting really comfortable on stories with your behind the scenes of your day and sharing glimpses into your life, and using kind of those tools of, the poll or the questions and all that kind of stuff is the first place, I guess, if that answers, that I would recommend people start.
Allow me to take a quick break to remind you that we have very important links in the description below. If you want the full story of how we closed over $1 million in commissions our first year and over $2.3 million in commissions our second year, check out the first link. Also, you have the link to our #1 Amazon best-selling book, Passive Prospecting. Last, if you enjoy this podcast and you're a giving person, leave a 5-star review, please. Now back to the episode. Let's talk about the polls and the questions, because I think this is the most underutilized aspect of the story on Instagram. And if you have not done a deal from Instagram or gotten somebody to reach out to you, have you been doing polls or questions or calls to action? So could you expand on that?
Absolutely. One of the biggest mistakes that I think that agents make on social media is giving away all of the information of a new property in the post or on the story. And agents do that because a lot of times agents are funneling their view of, this post about this listing, how they would want to receive the information. Yes, it's true. It's obviously true that people want to know what is the price point, where's the location, what's the amount, or what's, beds and baths, like what are the key features of a property. But if you give all of the information away, or even the full address, honestly, because then anyone can take it and go look it up, people are losing out on so much lead capture opportunity through Instagram. You can very easily say, hey, this home just got listed in a specific zip code, in a specific neighborhood, and you can give information around it without giving the full criteria and say, you could even say the price point or beds and baths. But I think where we've seen the most success is giving the location, the beds and baths, and then maybe like a couple other details, and prompting people then to reach out or guess what the price is. Then you have control over the conversation or the people interacting with that poll or question on your story to then, take that potential lead or relationship in whatever way. If they have someone they could refer and they haven't, it's a different agent that has somebody who might be interested. However it looks, you're at least creating the opportunity for that conversation. And that's how I think those tools should be looked at, is creating the opportunity for the conversation. And I just think that people don't always view it that way. They want to be very giving and give the information to make it very easy for that person to process whether or not that house is right for them. But what agents, I think, forget a lot of times is people who don't know real estate, don't understand the real estate world. So they don't necessarily understand that just because you've listed 5 different houses, that those aren't the only houses that they could potentially buy. And that misconception's out there. Some people will assume, oh, Levi's listed these 10 houses, that's all he has available for me as a buyer, and not understanding maybe oh, he could show me other houses or other people's listings. So that's just a huge thing I've noticed all the time.
Yeah. And that's something that, you mentioned the word giving, and that's something that I want to encourage everybody, is that you have to, there's some people are a little reluctant to ask for the business, or they feel that in real estate land, which is, the reality is we're not going to hard close somebody on buying a house, right? You're not going to show them the house and say, this is the house for you. You have to buy that, get it today, 10,000. That's not going to happen. You have to let them make that decision. But when it comes to social media, that there is a direct correlation to asking for the business. And so just posting content, just, here I am showing homes, here's this house, or doing that thing, is not necessarily going to return you the return you're looking for. You have to have some calls to action. You have to prompt people. You have to get them moving. Most people will not do anything until you give them some sort of incentive or call to action to do it. And a prime example is very simple. It's just it's like reviews. This is something that we talk about with our team, getting team reviews. And we have to remind to the team and say, hey, this is part of who we are. This is part of our team. We need to get reviews from our clients. But then also it's one thing to like say that, but then when we ran a contest around it, man, all of a sudden we got 30 reviews inside of a week. People were calling people up, and just adding that little incentive or call to action. So just a little motivation behind that. But also when you're doing that on your stories, you have to think about posting that, hey, what price do you think this home is worth? Or you post a poll, planning to make a move in 2023, yes or no? Very simple, something, question related or poll related, just like Marist was talking about earlier, those call to actions or leaving out the little bit of information. This has come up in our Facebook group recently as well. People are asking, hey, I noticed on some of Levi's videos, he's not mentioning neighborhoods. He's not mentioning, subdivision or something like that. And I'm like, exactly. I want people to wonder so that they call us, and you'll see it in the comments of our videos. Hey, what neighborhood is that? Hey, what subdivision is that, or something? And I'll say, hey, would love to chat with you about that. Give us a call, and so something there that is alluring to them and getting people to move through that. We have to ask for the business. And if you never know. I mean, that's what happens when you lose a relationship to Uncle Bob because he's over at somebody's house drinking a beer on Sunday, because Uncle Bob's like, well, yeah, just listen, he's asking for the business, right? And then we've been friends with this person for a long time, and we think they're just going to give us the business, and that's just not the case. So anything else you'd like to add to that, Marist, or do you think we covered that quite well? Did we lose her?
Oh, sorry. I was muted. No, I think that's super accurate. And one thing I would just encourage you guys to remember is like perception is reality on social media to a lot of people. And where you can end up missing the mark in lead generating is when you get really into video and you get really good at showing the behind the scenes of your day. And although that's great because it's showing people that you're living, breathing, walking around in the world of real estate and helping your clients, it also can falsely give off the perception that you're too busy to work with people. So if you're not doing what Levi is saying by like including those call to actions, asking people, hey, are you looking to buy or sell? Educating them like, hey, if you're looking to buy or sell before spring, give people a timeline, because people will forget. Like most people are not even paying attention to the fact that we're already at the end of February, right? If their goal was to buy in springtime, well, guess what? Like in their mind, they could still be in December, and here we are like heading into March. So give people outward timelines and ask those call to action or poll questions, and remind people that you're not too busy. You remind people that you have referral partners in different states, especially if you're in a very popular like relocation area.
Yeah. So what are some of the questions or polls or questions or things like that have you seen, or are there basic ones that they can start out with that they can write down and start thinking about their next pieces of content, how they can have a call to action in there?
Yeah, I think that, and y'all are going to know more about your world than I am in terms of like hot ticket questions. I know that, I don't know if this is still the number, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, Levi, but people will typically be on the verge of buying or selling again if they've been in a house for 7 years. Is that like the magic, or there's something with the number 7?
I mean, I think right now the stats are 3 to 5 years. People are making a move on average 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so knowing that information, wherever your expertise falls, like asking questions around that. Like, hey, if you moved into your house, so you can reverse psychology it. Like if you moved into your house in 2020, send me a DM, I have a question for you, or yes or no. You can put poll questions where you say like, did you move in your house before 2020 or after 2020? And just let people answer those. So it's the questions that don't necessarily feel invasive or salesy, but set you up. So what I always encourage everyone, because you all have different areas of expertise, is to sit down and brain dump like you would in a journal. Just brain dump, like what are the biggest pain points and what are the most common things that you're seeing with your buyers or sellers, and then ask those like 10 step away questions to them, knowing that if they answer that you can then follow up and have deeper conversations. And so that's like there's a whole real estate side, but the other thing where I really want to plug right now, because it's one of the things that I like preach the most, is to add in like completely non-real estate related questions. Like remind people that you're still a human and a person outside of just real estate, because some people may have absolutely no interest in your real estate content. And if we're talking specifically about your sphere of friends or family, you, in my opinion, do not want to deter them by only ever talking about real estate on your story. Your story is a great place to show your personality. That content doesn't live forever. It's not like your grid. But in your story, you can like, an agent the other day, last night, posted like about the Murdoch, murders show on Netflix. And it's like, did you binge it this weekend or not? And on our conversation this morning, on our check-in call this morning, we spent the first 5 minutes talking about that because I did and she did. And she was like, I got more engagement on that than I have in any of my other polls. So by having little relatable polls.
Sorry. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Janice. Put you on mute. Sorry, I accidentally muted you, Maris, by accident.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. But by having like other relatable polls, it opens up again the opportunity for conversations where then I always implement my 3 before me rule, where let's say someone reaches out to you about, the show, or you say something about a recipe or any of your other content pillars that could be personal to you and not necessarily business related, then all you have to do is implement my 3 before me rule, which is going 3 questions deep with that person on a topic that they've engaged with you on, because you created that opportunity in your story for them to engage with you. It went directly to your DMs. You're now in control of that conversation. You go 3 questions deep with them, or go creep on their profile, bring up their family vacation. Now they're invested in a conversation. They go back and ask you, well, how have you been doing? What are you up to? And then boom, you plug real estate, or somehow then tie this relatable thing into talking about their work or your work, which you can plug your business, however you do the best. But I found that be more strategic in drumming up conversations where people weren't thinking of you as a real estate agent in that moment. But when you did start talking to them, caring about them, and then they went back to you, that's when all of a sudden they thought of a referral. That's when all of a sudden they remembered that their coworker is about to relocate and move, and you could help them. So don't underestimate the power of like polls in all situations, is what I want to say with that.
Yeah, let me see in the chat real quick. What's the hot topic right now that is keeping people from wanting to buy a house, at least according to the news and everything else? And I'll give you a little hint. We talked about it right as we started this call. Okay, I see one answer. Okay, 2. All right. Yep. Okay. Perfect. That's what I wanted to see. Rates. This is something everybody's talking about. So if you want a question, and everybody should test this immediately. And then also let me know in the Facebook group after this, how this worked. So do a story and do something along the lines of just curious, is buying a home on your radar this year, but interest rates are holding you back? Comment in my poll below and let me know, if I could get you yesterday's rates in today's market, would you look at houses? Now,
can I give a really quick tip too on that?
That was off the head, so that wasn't perfected. Don't skew me too much.
No. Oh, no. I love that. But what I was gonna say too, that I found that works really well, is encouraging people, if they want more information on something, like number 1, doing the polls where they literally can tap yes or no, and you can control how you do that. You'll get more interaction than using the question box where people have to actually type. However, if you do want it to be more intimate and get people to type, then do like drop a house emoji. If you want if you want information, or if you want all the active listings and XYZ zip code, drop a house emoji. When people don't feel the pressure of crafting a message in that question box, and they know they can just drop an emoji or reply with an emoji in that box, it takes a lot of like the pressure out, and you should see increased engagement.
All right. So great point. So then we reword it, right? We say, hey, have you been wanting to make a move recently, but rates have you holding back. And if I could show you a way to get yesterday's rates in today's market, would you be open to, to look in the market or something? You'd have to word it just, I think you get what I'm saying though, right? Does that make sense? And then you could say yes or no. So that way, very simply, you get if you're looking for the yeses, right? So yes, I would be interested in looking if you could get me yesterday's rates in today's market. And hopefully you understand how a 2-1 buy down or a 3-1 buy down works. And that's something you can discuss. We just worked with a couple of people closing homes lately that'll do that. And they're not worried about the rate, right? Getting them in the 4.5 range right now, even though rates are 6.8, 6.9, do a buy down, got the concessions from the seller to pay for that. And it's a good opportunity. And so they're comfortable because their payment is within the range they want to be in. But on top of that, they have a belief that rates will come down in the next year or two during that 2-1 buy down period, so that they can refinance at that time. So that's a great tip. Yes, the path of least resistance, right, Maris? That's what you want to do. So yes or no, you want to make this all at a 3rd grade level as much as possible.
And I want to say too, if I have any people in here who like to use text messaging as a touch point with their clients, that this works, the same exact kind of script works in text messaging. Just write something out, however the pain point is, framing it exactly how Levi just said for a story. And at the end of the text message, all you have to say is, if you want more information or would like to discuss this further, reply yes. And just put reply, quote, yes. Like, I use that as a sales strategy if I'm doing like a giveaway or like 30% off or something like that, or I'm going to give my clients a discount if they prepay for a quarter or whatever. I'll send out something that sounds personal with their name in the beginning, but at the end, I'm just like, if you want to see a proposed quote, reply yes. That way they don't have to like write a novel back. Like, they might have had to read a little bit of a novel and then they'll just reply yes. Then they get to move on with their day. So yeah, path of least resistance, like Levi was saying.
Absolutely. And that's why, on our YouTube channel, we have, a phone number, an email, and a Zoom call, but also we're trying to connect with people in their communication style as well. And so we know the people that call us want to talk to us, right? If they call us, they're probably like auditory people, auditory learners. They just want to kind of hear you. Texters and emailers are readers and writers. Zoom people are like kinesthetic. So, those types of things, you want to provide other options. But yeah, when you have a direct call to action, it's the least amount of options and the least amount of work that will lead people to where you want them to go, especially if you have a link tree, in your Instagram profile. I'm a little torn on this because if you look at my link tree on Instagram, I have 4 links in there. Although most marketers will tell you need 1, period. Because if they go to your link tree or go to just a link on your profile, you're funneling them into one option. For me, I've got a reason for having, 4 different options on there because we have a book coming up soon. We have, by the way, March 7th. And then, we have a podcast. And the reason I have the podcast on there is because I know that if people are not ready to take the next step, then if they go down the podcast route, because again, to me, long form content is the best conversion. Short form content is the best exposure. It can get you noticed really quickly. But if somebody's going from my Instagram, they can only learn so much in little tidbits. But if they go to my link tree and they see a podcast, guess what? Every episode we have is probably about an hour at least. And you get somebody listening on your podcast for an hour, guess what happens? Not only do they learn a lot, but that relationship grows even deeper. Do you think relationships grow deeper when somebody's listening to an hour podcast every week or, watching a few reels throughout the week? There's just a lot longer time frame. That's why on YouTube videos, we feel like we get a lot better conversion than from short form content. Although you can get conversion from that as well. So all good points, but you have to engage your audience. I think it was really and there's no really, you got to test this out. That's the thing. You have to test this out and try different things, try the yes or no, try the reply with, try, text me or ask me a question, or I mean, I see a lot of people do that. Hey, ask me anything, ask me anything questions. That's another great way to get your audience to know you. Has nothing to do with real estate, right? It's more about you. Ask me anything type questions. And it's funny to see the questions that come back and whenever people run those polls.
Yeah,
So,
I have something else if you don't mind.
oh no, this is your show. This is your show.
Okay, cool. Before it slips my mind, I want to tell you guys this too, because I think it's another huge missed opportunity from people. And I think that agents, again, like I feel like agents on social media, I feel very strongly about this, are mainly consuming other agents' social media content. And because everyone wants to be inspired by the person who took off on Reels or TikTok or whatever. And so what you're consuming a lot, and agents will end up speaking to other agents, knowing that agents are primarily the people engaging. Not saying it's always the case, but I've found that to be the case a lot, that people will grow really quickly and it's a bunch of agents like attracted to other agents, and they'll lose themselves a little bit in the way that they're gearing the content. And instead of making funny reels about like another agent like forgetting to leave the key in the lockbox and like using a trending audio, and everyone's laughing and engaging because it's relatable to the agents, like remember the fact that the content you're creating for, if you want lead conversion, is not other agents. You having like a lot of followers and a lot of engagement when you do funnel buyers and sellers, or you have buyers and sellers, yes, they don't know that it's a bunch of agents, and that can potentially help with like the vanity metrics, can help in some regard. But don't get so hung up on like copying all these other agents who are successful on Reels that y'all are just creating content for each other. So one of the things that I think that I rarely see this, and I think it would be brilliant as an agent to do, would be to tell more stories, like identify your buyers or sellers' biggest pain points in whatever current market you're in, and then figure out whether or not you have helped somebody with one of those scenarios. If you are a producing agent, you probably have, right? Then find ways, without using people's names or like overly giving away too much information, tell the stories in a way that's like, someone called me and said this, and then I help them like this, because that's going to help me, the buyer, or me, the seller, see myself working with you because I have that exact same pain point. So what I'm trying to say in short is that there's not enough storytelling from the buyer or seller side. And if you are strategic as an agent, I had somebody, the one girl that I saw do this really well, she started something as if she was a buyer or seller, saying, I don't want to buy a house because of this, this, this. So I'm watching this reel thinking it's a buyer or a seller. And then all of a sudden she goes, that's a text message that I got this morning, and this was my reply, and this is how I can help that person. So immediately I was identifying as a potential buyer with that agent, thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like, I don't want to buy because of this. Then all of a sudden it flipped, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the only thing I wanted to do is contact that person. So don't get too lost is what I'm trying to encourage in the world of like all these agents blowing up, and forget who your audience is, or should be.
Yeah, that's a great point. If I can add to that, I think you want to be mindful of how you position your content as well, which is be mindful of who you're making fun of. So if you have reels or short form content making fun of the buyer or the seller, think about how that may make them feel, or especially the ones that are concerned or scared to ask questions, right? I mean, I think everybody has a little reluctance to ask, everyone says it all the time. Well, I hate to ask a dumb question, or I didn't ask anything because I didn't want to look dumb. And then what Maris is talking about, making reels, if we're making reels about mistakes that buyers or sellers are making, and we're poking fun at them. I mean, if I was in that position, I'd say, "Whoa, well, I don't want to end up on this agent's reels as a joke, And so I think what she's talking about, storytelling, there is very powerful, because and I'll just pick on Betty here, since she's on here, and I know she just recently closed a house, but Betty, I mean, that would be, posted a great picture and balloons and confetti and all that cool stuff. But it's like, now is the opportunity to say, you know what, we just closed on a home with the client, and here's, they had this major issue, or they had a problem, or they had this concern, or you think you're the only person concerned about rates right now. Well, we just closed on a home, and guess what their rate is at? Well, it's at this, but we were able to do this and we were able to do that. Or, they had to move because of this reason, or, they saw the opportunity, or they got transferred and had to make, so whatever that situation is, a nice little summary of that client success, then that is something that's going to give comfort to other people versus me crying in a box of Kleenex eating pizza saying, oh, I just showed 80 homes to one buyer and they decided they want to rent instead, which is just showing your frustration of working with people, right? And that, oh, it's I've worked with somebody and now they don't want to buy. And so, those types of reels, I would just be very, very mindful. It's the same approach, I've talked about on YouTube. Right now, I can make a video about the market burning down and price drops and everything's, houses underwater. And I don't think that's the client I'm looking for. I'm looking for the clients that want to move. And so, that's where I've chosen to stick on message, to stay positive, to provide information about Dallas in that manner, and to move forward and to let people know in the videos, hey, if you're concerned about this, just give us a call. We have to talk through your situation and figure out what's going to work best for you. And that's what I say in every video. So the thing is I don't believe you'll get the phone to ring if you're posting 40% price drops and the market is crashing, and then you're sitting there talking about all the bad stuff in the market, right? You're going to attract the negativity. You're going to attract the people that are like, yep, this is, I would never buy a house. And guess what? They've been saying they're never going to buy a house for the last 5 years, right? And so now they're not going to buy houses as well. It's like, that's not the audience I'm looking for. So yeah. I know people are out there moving, they're researching, people and buy and sell homes every single day in every single market. And that's the people I want to find.
Yeah. And sadly, if you're not paying attention to who's liking your stuff or commenting on your stuff, you can, like, some people anyway, can get really, really like a false understanding of the success that they're having on social media through vanity metrics, when they're not even bothering to realize, like, oh, that reel might have performed the best, but who did it perform the best with? Like, my target audience who's actually going to work with me, or did it perform really well with agents because we're all like talking shit, So sorry, I shouldn't have said. I shouldn't have.
Right. We know how Tennesseans are.
But yeah, I don't know. So that is one message that I'm very, very passionate about sharing, especially as things are taking off, and why, like, I guess, Levi, I don't know, do you want me to give you some of like my tangible tools that I recommend to agents and when they're starting or whatever?
Yes, I do. I want to, let me look at a couple of questions real quick. I saw Diana says, how do you personalize text messages with names?
Well,
I'm not sure where that came up. I would say real quick, yeah, either you type in their name or your CRM, right? If your CRM has, should have you could build in templates. At least that's the way our CRM works. You could build in templates if you're texting people, and it'll say, hey, first name. It'll literally say like parentheses, first name. And as long as you have that contact card stored in your CRM, it'll automatically pop out Joe or Betty or whoever it's going to. So I'm not sure where that came up. So I was just going back there, but let's see. Okay. So yeah, let's get into some tools. I don't see any other questions. We can always come back to those. So what are the tangible tools?
Yeah. Tangible tools. So the first thing I recommend, definitely if I'm ever coaching with an agent one-on-one, is, and I'm happy, and Levi, I guess I can send you these tools and you can send them out or whatever. I don't know.
If you our Facebook group,
I can post them in the Facebook group. Yeah,
go for it.
The spreadsheets. Okay, cool. So there's a spreadsheet that I have that's very practical and very simple, but essentially there's a few things on it that you want to identify. Number one is like, who is I call them your hot 100. So your hot 100 would be 100 people that you've already met. So someone who's likely going to be already in your sphere, who you either have done business with, or you feel very confident they would refer business to you, even if they're just like a friend or coworker or something like that. So you want to put your top 100 people that you would put in that category. Then you want to make sure that you are connected with those people on social media platforms that you use most often, like Facebook and Instagram, or wherever you are where you can mutually connect. So you want to do that for your top 100 people. You also want to do that for your chicken list, and your chicken list is going to be the top 20 people that you want to do business with, or let's say you think would be an amazing referral source. So if it's someone who's like the head of an organization that has a lot of your ideal clients or target market, that they are connected to, and you want them to be one of your top referral sources, you want to put all these people on your chicken list. And then you can't guarantee the chicken list people will probably follow you back because you don't know them most of the time. Or you do know them and you're too afraid to open up that conversation to say you want that type of relationship. But then what you do is you're going to rotate, you're going to like nurture your algorithm to get you more in front of these people. And you do this by rotating every week. You're going to rotate through, or every month, you're going to, what am I saying?
Yeah, every month you
every week. Yeah. Every week you rotate through 25 people, right? So then by the end of the month, you touch these people like on social media one way or another. So each day that's only 5 people, right? If you're doing this 5 times a week, like Monday through Friday, it's part of your routine on social media. So what you're going to do is you're going to make it a goal this is like a play off the $1.80 rule. And if y'all don't know that, then don't worry about it right this second. But essentially going through rotating these people every day, looking to see, have they posted a story? Have they posted on their timeline? Have they made a post, whatever? And you want to leave a 2-cent comment. And a 2-cent comment is basically just a comment that's more meaningful and engaging than being like, congratulations. Like when someone's kid graduated from college, you say, or high school or whatever. You say, congratulations. Like, what's the next step? Or like, have they picked a school, or how exciting, or with something that follows it, a question that will prompt the engagement back and forth. So when you do this and you start engaging with their stuff, you're going to increase the likelihood that the algorithm is now going to show your content in front of them. So as you're developing your content strategy, you're now using this spreadsheet as a guideline for already knowing you've already done that brain work to figure out who you want to work with. And now you're just doing a light little touch point to guarantee that your content's not completely getting missed by them, because you're primarily engaging with other agents and not your sphere. So be very, very mindful about who you engage with, who you follow. If you are an agent, you should be following so many local businesses. You should be engaging with local businesses. I know, Levi, I'm pretty sure you're the one who has like opened up a lot of people's eyes to leaving Google reviews and getting exposure through you showing up on other business pages in your local area. But you want to make sure that you're showing up in those areas, and otherwise you will deter like that content being shown there. So rotate through. And then my goal for my coaching clients is always for you to set coffee appointments or meetings through this engagement strategy when you're engaging with them, aside from nurturing the content. But that's one of I have like a whole nother sheet that's just basic biggest misses, best practices, rules for your bio, all that kind of stuff that I can send. But I wanted to really make that point about engagement while I was here.
Oh, let's talk about bio structure on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
So tell us the wrong way and the right way.
So if you don't know this, like your handle and your name, the name section is the only searchable part of your bio. So it's important, I think, as an agent to have some sort of keyword in those areas. For me, I'm going to use myself really fast as an example. If you guys follow me, it's at Marist Marketing, but you're going to notice like I have a separate business account, but For the purposes of me teaching agents on building referral business, I like to use my personal profile as an example because I don't talk a lot about marketing. I talk about it like 20% of the time that I'm posting because my goal is to build and nurture like relationships that would exceed whether I stop marketing or not. It's a whole nother conversation. But my point is my handle is @MaristMarketing. So every time I engage with someone, I'm creating brand awareness that my name is Marist and that I do marketing. So if I'm going through and engaging with all the people I want to do business with all the time, then what they're seeing all the time is Marist Marketing, Marist Marketing, Marist Marketing. And I do that on purpose in case they don't see my content or don't care about my content. They're at least going to be reminded every time I engage with them. So if you don't have something related to your industry in your handle, then I would highly encourage that you add something to your location or your industry in your handle and use engagement as your #1 brand awareness strategy on social media. It can take a long time for you to get really comfortable or really good at content creation. You guys are real estate agents, you're not content creators. And I know that everyone is making you think that you have to be content creators, but not everyone is meant to be a content creator. Some people are really good at it. Some people are not that great at it. I'm not saying you can't ever get there, and I'm not discouraging you from getting there, but this is a very simple tool that you can do. Same thing with your name. You could have your name, like a divider line, a set, whatever it's called. And then on the other side of that, have your location. And think about what people are searching when they go into Instagram and search Dallas, Texas realtor, whatever it is that they're going to be searching. Plug that into the name section. That's more important than you having your actual name. You could take up the whole name section on Instagram, just saying what it is you do and drop your full name directly beneath it in the bio part that doesn't really matter, right? So I don't know. There's different ways that you can combine that. Also, say who you serve and who you're looking for. If you primarily work with investors, say that you are looking for investors. If you primarily work with sellers, if you work with both. If you work in a smaller geographical area than just, something super broad like Atlanta, and you work in a suburb of an area, then put that in your bio. But communicate who you serve and absolutely always have a call to action to your link in bio. Tell people what your link is. Whatever you are trying to drive traffic to, like Levi was saying earlier, like I used to be someone who only had one link because that's how I funneled everyone, was to my contact page to get them on the phone with me. It's very important that you know where you close deals. If you do it on the phone or you do it with your own voice, now you're talking to people, drive people there. If you know, like Levi has learned, and I haven't even explained you to him, so like, take my advice with a grain of salt. This is just what has worked for me. Like I know that like people will follow me for whatever reason. If I get them on the phone, then I can close the deal. Now that I have courses and I built other things, it makes more sense for me to have a link tree. So whatever I'm in the prime of wanting to point people to, right now you're going to see watch my free webinar. That's what I'm trying to drive traffic to. You need a call to action in your bio to prompt people to click on the link. You also need the buttons. And if you don't know this, you can add a button right under your bio for people to email you and people to call or text you. I highly, highly encourage as a real estate agent that you set the phone button up to call you. Because if people are feeling so inclined that they want to contact you via phone on social media, they probably want to just be on the phone with you. If they wanted to write you, they could use the message feature on Instagram. So I don't encourage putting text message, even though you guys get a million calls a day, I'm sure. Like set it up to where people can call you so that you're, increasing the likelihood that you're making that very easy for them to get in touch with you if they're interested about something. So that's what I would say about your bios. I also am a very visual person. So I love that Levi just brought that up as I was saying that. It's like he read my mind. So when it comes to crafting your bio, using emojis. So a lot of people will put emojis in the middle or the end or whatever. Emojis in at all times should replace punctuation. So when you're using an emoji in place of in a line item situation, it should replace the bullet point, which goes in the front of the text. And the reason being because your eye's more drawn to the image. And if you're putting it at the end or in the middle or staggered, it could deter people from being drawn in and reading left to right and being very drawn in and focused into an area. So you'll increase the chances people actually read your bio by using it in place of the bullet. Levi, I didn't know if you wanted to talk through your master.
Did I pass? Did I pass?
Oh yeah. See, YouTube for real estate. And I'm pretty sure we talked about this when you first had your thing. Or something. So Levi too.
Well, Marist actually made me change it. Yeah. I mean, that was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago. She's like, your profile sucks. Change it. Here's what you do.
Look at you with 105,000. I didn't even realize that. Good for you, Levi. So Levi's name is very well known. So like people like having his full name as his handle, I think is very relevant. Like, because his Instagram page at this point is like his, not like your personality because you are who you are, but like to agents, right? Because your primary goal with this account is to educate agents and all of that. So it's a little bit, and that's why he has YouTube for real estate in his name. So those are 2 examples. Like people are going to search him by his full name, likely, because it's unique and he has a very distinct personal brand. So it is important he has that somewhere. And then so just like me, my company is called Marist Inc. and my name is called Marist. My last name is not that important, but I make sure that at least Marist is present in both situations. So, yeah.
And then I spell out, like you mentioned, helping real estate agents crush YouTube.
Yeah.
So that's the first line. I put results in here just because anytime that I want to learn from somebody, I'm always curious, what are their results? And a lot of people don't display their results. So I just throw it out there. Hey, here's what we've done. So if you want to,
that's so good.
Yeah. If you haven't made it to those levels, then those are probably people I want to help. But what's funny is every time I go to a conference, these mega agents they haven't conquered YouTube, and they're coming to me, and I'm working with 5, 6, 7, $800 million producers on their YouTube because they've done it every other way except YouTube. And it blows me away. I'm sitting there, in the audience going, holy shit, $700 million. And then I get off a stage or something, they come to me and they're like, wow, YouTube. I mean, they're so excited and amazing. So, but still, it's of course we want to promote the book as well. And then my little personal touch, Iraq veteran. I think everybody, likes to work with veterans as well. So that's a common, a very relatable factor. And then discover how. So that's a little call to action, right? Discover how, and they can hit on the link tree. So, like I said, I've got four links, despite I know a lot of people will say, but I think I've got, a very significant differentiation in audience as well.
Yeah. And you're doing different things. So that's where, like, it's funny because I'm starting to do, I was adamant that I grow my business through my personal account for all these years so I could teach agents how to do it. But now I'm at a point where I'm building courses, and I went back to the business page. I had put that on hold. So now I'm pouring into the business page, and someone was like, Maris, like, you're the one who always teaches us to have one account, and now you have 2 accounts. And I was like, well, I'm a marketing person. I'm not a real estate agent. Like, it's very different. But you, Levi, like, that's like a business within like, it's totally different. You're selling when you have products and courses and all that kind of stuff, you absolutely should have a link tree.
Well, and you noticed that I've chosen Instagram as a direct marketing channel to real estate agents. I'm not trying to mix real estate clients with real estate agents on there. I'm not trying to serve 2 different audiences. And that's the same. That's why we have 2 different YouTube channels, one directed towards agents, one directed towards clients. I actually don't want any of my clients knowing about the book, my course, none of that. It's not something that, some will find out, and that's okay. It's not something I'm embarrassed about. It's just not something that I'm promoting or I want to get mixed up in there. I want to keep real estate clients focused on buying and selling real estate. And I want to keep agents focused on learning how to attract, buyers and sellers through YouTube. So very distinct audience. So you have to make that determination who you're targeting as well.
And I think too, like, as an agent, it's really important to decide, Like Levi, I think you right out the gate came into the real estate world and like went all in with like pulling people in from your geographical area, right? And like that, like, and you've seen so much success with that. I think that agents, like a lot of agents kind of need, like, there's two different strategies based on if you were looking to build in like people from your community who have never met you versus like a lot of what I talk about with like how you nurture your sphere. Even if you were to have if you're an individual agent and it was, you know, this agent doing personal social media the way that I train and teach personal social media, if you are trying to get business directly from your sphere, that can still drive in some local, but it's primarily like getting repeat and referral business like extremely consistently to where you'd be so happy with your business from your sphere. That's my area of expertise. The agents that create hi, I'm Maris and I have a personal page, and hi, I'm Maris and I have a real estate page, and your real estate page is very similar to your personal page, and it's all like your accolades of like your stuff, and it's about your team event, and it's about your whatever, that is not driving traffic from your local community. If you're an individual agent and you want to drive people in from your local community, create a community page that is all things that area, and stop bringing yourself into it. Stop bringing your team, you know, buyer, seller, random stuff into it. Like, make it about the community if you're looking to drive traffic from people just wanting to learn about the area. And I think people can apply a lot of what you do on YouTube, Levi, like your strategy with YouTube, to a community type of page on social media. I think where people completely mess up in both places is where they bring their own like ego and self into it. And it's not about the community at all anymore. It's about them or their team. And there's like a time and a place for that. We don't have enough time to go into it, but I think that's something everyone should, you know, just sit with and consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think a majority of agents are going to fall in, you know, having one Instagram and incorporating your personal and real estate related into one. I mean, if you haven't built out your primary Instagram first, I think it's you know, to build out a secondary, or you know, people relate more with people anyways. So you want a people facing brand. You know, I just chose because, you know, I didn't really have social presence at all. Whenever I came into the game, I was more of the anti-social type of person. And you know, I wanted to do everything in real life, right? That was my thing. And then which is why I liked YouTube so much, because it wasn't really a social platform. It's a search engine. But, you know, and so I chose at that point. And when I started to attract real estate clients from YouTube, and then developed systems around that, and wanted to also attract agents, I just decided on separate channels for that. And that's where I made that decision to where my Instagram is, you know, some personal stuff, but also my audience is real estate agents. So that's where, you know, because if you try to build out two different Instagrams at the same time, you're just you're giving yourself twice the work as well. Yeah. So now if you go down the road and you develop, you know, a system or a process, and you want to market towards real estate agents or mortgage brokers or something like that, you know, at that time, I think it probably makes sense. But, you know, ideally just really dial in, and I would say, you know, pick your platform and study and learn it, and you know, be the best at that one, and then start to branch off from there.
I completely agree.
So, okay, let me check. Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. So let me see. Agents chasing both. Can you talk on that poll or find? Let me see. As an agent, I think it's important to have two coaches, one for YouTube and one for the systems for walking a client through. Probably. I mean, I could see that. Let me see. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think you know, Travis and I work well together, because, you know, when we work with people, I mean, I can definitely help people with YouTube, and he can help people with contract negotiations, right? Working through deals, navigating difficult times, especially when there's multiple offers. Now, we just sold another listing within a few days, and what we've nailed down on that side of it is really working well right now. So, and the last one we sold in 9 days, the one before that we sold in 3 days. So even in this market where listings on average are now sitting even longer and longer, if you have the right marketing strategy, then you can you can be successful. And that's the same thing on the buy side. So yeah, I mean, we're still working with clients right now. So I would just focus on, and I got a question too about somebody mentioning that right now, as far as posting a lot of negative content, generating a ton of views, and recommending to people not to buy. Here's the thing about real estate. I just want to encourage everybody to think about this. It's not timing the market. It's time in the market. That's what it comes down to. As we mentioned, the stats right now is that a home buyer is going to be in their home for 3 to 5 years. No matter what the market is doing, you buy in an up market or a down market or a sideways market, if they plan on staying, and this is why you have to have that conversation, which is why in our videos, we're staying positive, we're staying encouraging, we're staying informational. And I'm saying, look, if you're thinking about this, give us a call so we can talk through your situation, because every situation is unique. And ultimately, when we have that conversation with somebody, we're going to say, well, what's the plan? Are you going to be here for 6 months or a year? Well, if that's the case, I mean, maybe it's not the right time for you to buy. But if you're coming here and you're looking at homes or you're making a move, then maybe, and you plan to stay here for the next 3 to 5 years, guess what's going to happen? You should easily weather any storm in the first place, first of all. So, and are rates going to drop in 6 months or a year? Possibly, but they could go back up. They could get worse. Who knows? And you may look at 6% right now and think you got a great deal. I remember in 2019, I bought my house at 5%, and I didn't even bat an eye at that. I thought 5% was amazing in 2019. There was no pushback at all, and now we're at 6 and 6.5. I mean, there's a difference there, but still, it's not bad. So it has to come down to the conversation. Do they plan to stay there? Are rates going to come down? Sure, but can you know when? Can you time the market perfectly? No. You can't. I also sold all my property. I had 7 rentals in 2019, was not in a buy and hold mentality. Something I got landlord fatigue, and knowing what I know now, I would have never done that. And especially if I would have waited 1 more year, I probably would have sold them for twice as much. But I thought I was timing the market in 2019, right? So, the thing is that, and a lot of these people making negative videos on YouTube have been making them for the last 2 or 3 years as well. So what are they telling people? Just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait. I mean, for what? I mean, it depends on your situation. And guess what investors are doing right now? They're buying. You know why? Because it's not about the rate. It's about the market. It's never the price of the asset. It's what you can do with the asset. So what is their plan? Do they plan to live in it and have a family and stay at this job in the position? And does the job allow them to make a little bit more money, or they're going to have a lower cost of living because they're coming from a coastal state or a high tax state or a high restriction state? All those types of conversations you want to have with people and find out what's the benefit. And if you'd rather rent right now and try to time the market, guess what you're telling me? You're telling me, well, what's rent going to be for a family? Minimum $2,000 a month. So if somebody's going to rent over the next year or two to try to time the market, first of all, you're going to give up $48,000 in cash, right? And then guess what you're dealing with when you buy in 2 years? You're going to pay for what homes have appreciated over the next 2 years. So you're paying for that plus the $48,000 you did. Plus, you're telling me you're willing to move again. So if you're willing to move again in 2 years because you're going to rent and you're going to buy a house, why not buy something now? That $2,000 a month in rent that you would just throw away, you could put that towards your home. And then also, likely, depending on the market and where you're at, this is why you have to know your market and where things are going. In Dallas, we're still trending towards appreciation. It's still happening. Jobs are still happening. Economy is still doing well. We're growing. So we see appreciation happening. So build in that appreciation. And if it's not your favorite home in 2 years, guess what? You got a better opportunity. You can sell with no tax burden based on your homestead exemption up to a certain amount. You put all that money you would have spent on rent going away. And then on top of that, you've got appreciation that is likely going to happen, in that home as well. So you could end up walking away with a significant amount to put down on your next house. And guess what? If rates are down at that time, you were able to get a little bit more of a pricier, more expensive home, and the rate was down, and you had more cash that you could either put down or use for furniture, or maybe if the rates are still where they're at, you have money now to buy down the rate, or you could get concessions. I mean, all of this goes into the conversations that you have with people and whether you can understand their situation and what will help them make the best decision at this time. But I also mentioned that in my videos, which is why we still get phone calls right now. And I tell people, look, you just got to give us a call so we can talk through. That's why when people ask me direct questions in comments or on videos, I don't answer them unnecessarily. Because if they say, well, what's the best neighborhood? Well, I know nothing about you,
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that we have to keep in mind, and you have to position your message. I believe for positivity. It's easy to pick up some views being negative, but let's open up. You got one. Well, Erica, raise your hand. You want to ask one question before we close off? You got time for a question real quick, Marist?
Yeah, if it's for me, sure. Or either way, I'll hang out.
There you go.
So I do have a question. So there's actually one agent out here who is like the whole doomsdayer, and like why I have to ask you this question. I've literally lost sleep over it. So it bothers me that he's basically telling people, listen, I'm the only realtor you can trust, keep it 100% real, blah, blah, blah. Like, the whole doomsdayer thing. Telling people not to buy, and then he shows graphs. And I'm thinking, well, should I combat that by educating people? Because the Las Vegas market is picking up. As a matter of fact, in the last 15 days, we've had over 1,700 contracts accepted. So the market's picking up regardless of the interest rates. Do I combat that, or do I just focus on creating evergreen content that is going to continue to, find the people that I want?
Yeah, no, no. Go for it, Maris. You first.
Okay, sorry. I was just going to say, I think that that's a really great question, and there's a couple different ways I want to answer it. Number one, evergreen content is important, but hyper-specific market and real-time content is equally as important. So I would say I would never necessarily like seek fuel out of what someone who's like triggering you in a sense is like, if you're coming from a place of like wanting to give or like understanding that may not be the best advice, and I think that's good, but like I would be really careful with your energy that it doesn't come off and that it's not coming from a place of hoping that agent sees you combating it, and because I think people will be able to feel that. But separate to that, if I were you, I would be looking at the comments that person is getting and see if there's any points or from your potential target audience, like engaging with that content, and look for content opportunities from those comments. One of the greatest things you can do when you're trying to create content to your target market is to look at your quote unquote, like I don't even like calling people competitors because I think you're your own person and you'll attract your own people. But knowing how other people are responding or confused could give you insight into how you could then create content to serve, the other side of the coin. I don't know if that was helpful.
And I agree. I mean, I would never. The thing is, I cannot stand cat fights. I can't stand cat fights. So the last thing I would ever do is acknowledge that. But you would, if you say the word combat, I would say you do that in your own way, which is through data, right? Which you just mentioned a few stats. So the video, yes, evergreen content is important on YouTube, but just like Maris said, this is why, like on our lives, if we do a live once a week, that's really, really good to talk about hyper-local market, things that are happening, trends, something like that. Plus, it allows your audience to engage. We typically get 3 to 5 reach outs the next day because people ask again those specific questions. And I'll just say, man, that's a really great question, but I don't know you well enough to be able to answer that here. Make sure you give us a call first thing tomorrow so we can chat about that and I can get to know you a little bit better. And so from there, and if you want to make a right now, because it does work, I think even a weekly video on YouTube about if you didn't want to do a live and you wanted to make a 10-minute market update, I think that's very relevant right now on YouTube. And I know I emphasize a lot on evergreen content, but the way things are changing and they're so back and forth and everything's up in the air, it's just a different time we live in right now. So, if you're making 3 videos a week, I would focus on 2 videos that are really educational, informational, informative, positive, helping out. And then 1 video, if you focused on that, to say, look, here's what's happening. Here's the deal in Las Vegas. And we're seeing a major pickup. And present the fact that you're busy working with clients, you're helping people, man, start telling those stories like Maris was talking about early on. Start saying, I just helped a client last week. We got under contract and here's their situation. They've wanted to get out of California. They're making the move over here. And it was the time for them to move right now. So they had to move, and they understood that the market is a little bit up and down, but here's how we were able to solve that problem. And you kind of talk through that. And then if you want to show data, data will trump a lot of things. Here's the deal, is that you want 2 components in there. You want your story and you want your data. Your story is going to relate to about 70% of your audience. Your data is going to relate to about the other 30%. If you leave out one or the other, you're missing out on a good piece of audience. So that is something that you will capture a lot of those people, and a lot of those negative people are probably the data people that are over there, just kind of sucking that stuff up. And we've got the same thing. It's fine. It's we've got the same thing in our market, but the guy's not even a real estate agent. But every video is 250,000 views, and but it's funny because I just watched a video from this person last night, and he's like, nobody's going to open houses. The market's dried up. And I'm like, I don't know where you're at, buddy, but have you been to an open house lately? Have you been to a model home and a new construction site? I don't know if it's just me, but here in Dallas, they're packed. They're busy. There's people all over the place. Our open houses, the last one we did, we had like 50 people come through. And I'm going to, we've been testing out, filming some of these new construction properties, some of the model homes. We can't even, we have to stop every 5 minutes because there's a new family walking in there. I went to look at a new construction home. I'm in that one new construction house in one neighborhood. I'm in there, like 5 different people came in that house while I'm in that house, walking around, 5 different families within a 1-hour time frame. And I'm like, I don't know what your data's saying, but I know boots on the ground, working with people. We just put like 4 contracts, 4 people under contract this weekend, and it's happening. So I think it's tough to deal with. I would never directly address it. I would just stay on my message, my positive aspect. What am I seeing? The stories of it. Who have I helped this week, last week, and keep that fresh in that sense.
Eric, I have one more thing that I want to say on that. And everyone can take this or leave it, but I think it's important for me to say in light of this. There is something that's called, 2 things. Number one, I get super, super triggered by like social media gurus that have come out since the pandemic and latched onto the real estate world and just like completely like, sucked basically like capitalizing on reels and video and all this stuff that I don't feel like they're giving them like tried and true advice because like they haven't been in it or seen it, or they're coming from a place of what's easy to like ride the wave of the trends on. But I have always stayed true to a couple things in my business that has allowed me to be successful regardless of what's happening on social media or in the world around me. And that is that I do not overly pay attention to my quote unquote like competitors. Number one, I don't view anyone as a competitor. I think that we all have a unique place and voice, and we get put in positions and in opportunities when the right people need to hear what we have to say. So in tandem with that is this thing called the grocery store rule. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but the grocery store rule is if you wouldn't be excited about running into somebody at the grocery store and talking to them and sparking up a conversation, then you shouldn't follow them on social media. because what can happen is you can end up consuming their content or manifesting a different reaction or a different approach to helping your audience through consuming what you deem to be negative or like the opposite. So I would just really encourage you, that it sounds like you are true to the way that you feel passionate about the way that you help your clients and can help your clients. And the more that you block out what you don't agree with, the more you're going to be able to stay aligned with what you do agree with. And your messaging will come through more authentic and hit the right people, instead of potentially your messaging coming out even indirect, like directly or indirectly, like coming off combative based on what other people are saying when your audience may not even be hearing that. So just kind of keep that in mind too, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And no, I would never, blast myself and like, start blasting people on social media. But it just drives me crazy that these people, and they're sharing national news versus like local news, and local data and stats are different. And then I love stalking people's analytics, because you can find out if people are monetized, how many views they're getting, what they're making a day on socialblade.com. So I stalk, like I've just been obsessing over this, which I shouldn't be doing, but he's now finally monetized. He's finally reached 4,000 watch hours with, like this new tactic. So it's just been driving me nuts, but you both, giving the advice it's actually helped me a lot.
Oh, good. Well, stay true to yourself. And also remember that a lot of times people who are being more like snakes in capitalizing off of, maybe false ways of educating people, because it's drawing people in, because people will naturally a lot of times get attracted to things that are not necessarily like in their best interest, but it resonates with them, or a side of them that it like validates what it is that they're feeling or thinking, especially when it comes to the news. If he's monetizing off of that, that's not how you want to monetize anyway, number one. And number two, like that will all fall apart at some point. Like you stay true to you and like continue down that path, and your path may be slower. Like your path may be slower, but then take off. But as long as you know that you're staying true to you and how you serve your clients and what you believe to be their pain points, then I would like really, really encourage you to maybe try and like best you can kind of step away from maybe some of that like lurkingness, because it could, but if anything else, just like hurt you in the sense like discouraging you potentially, or making you think like, oh, that is the way to make money, when there's so many other ways that you can monetize for being you. And I really, really believe that every single agent there is meant to draw in their own tribe of people. And that's why there's so many successful agents. So that's, I don't know. That was like,
It was helpful. Thank you. Thank you for the pep talk.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was just I was searching on YouTube. I think I might have found the culprit, so I was curious.
Levi's like, meanwhile, I'm gonna dissect it.
I'm gonna so yeah, I would just stay in your lane and just focus on that. The thing is that I know the amount of business we do whenever I've talked to a few other people, and like I said, this one person here, not even a real estate agent, and but they monetize. What's interesting is they monetize off of subscribe to their private videos to just tell you to continually wait. Just wait. And it's been that way for 2 years. But in the meantime, you could have taken part in some really good appreciation, at least here in the Dallas market over the last 2 years. Even January, our January numbers just came out, and still 9.8% appreciation, in the markets that are doing well. And even overall for Dallas as a whole was 4.5%. So it's still happening. Yeah, are home sales down? Sure. Yeah. Yeah, of course they are, but it doesn't mean that appreciation is stopping because home sales are down. So that's where you have to help people understand the difference there, and show them what's happening and trending, and then also what I do, at least in Dallas here, is I'm showing a lot of sharing a lot of articles and a lot of articles right now, especially with commercial construction. I mean, Dallas was #1 in the country last year in commercial, and they're still trending towards commercial construction. And so with that amount of growth in commercial, what happens? That's more jobs, better economy. What does that mean? More people moving, more people getting better jobs, those types of things. It's funny. So we're going to see, I don't know, I'm coming out with the video on Thursday, which is, the 18 best things about Dallas. So I'm curious to see how that's going to do. Because again, I'm just going in that positive route. And then the very first bullet point I start off with is housing. I'm going to start out with housing, and I'm talking about the market and the commercial market and how everything is still happening right now and still moving in that direction and appreciation. So, I'm going to talk about those positives. And I know that we're seeing multiple offers again, even here as well, if the homes are priced correctly. So, again, for, people to say open houses are dried up and nobody's out, I'm just going, I'm boots on the ground. I'm seeing a whole different story, and we're seeing it with our business. But again, I'm just not focused on those types of things. So, all righty. Well, thank you guys. We went a little bit over today, but all good chat. So, keep an eye out in the Facebook group. Maris said she'll post her stuff there for us, take advantage of. So we appreciate that. And we will see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Maris. And Maris, how can people connect with you? Maris, you said Maris Marketing, all right, on Instagram?
Yeah. At Maris Marketing. Yeah. I have a free webinar if y'all want to watch that. There's like an in-depth course. All of that's linked in there, but yeah, y'all can ask me questions at any time. My profile says Mirror Marketing BFF, and I am. You can DM me anytime about any random questions you have, and I'd be happy to help.
And don't forget,
Passive Prospecting comes out on March 7th.
Yes, thank you. Look at that. If you didn't see one of my recent reels, this is 227 pages of YouTube yumminess right here. I mean, this is a thick book right here. This baby has some back. Let me tell you. I tell you what, it's it does. So I'm super excited about this March 7th. It came. I'm really, really happy about this. Mainly just the thickness. That was my biggest fear of ever writing a book. Like I've always wanted to write a book, but I was just, every book I ever would have written would have been like a 40-page ebook, which, hey, look, nothing wrong with that. But, you start working on this, and the next thing you know, it's like, wow, there's a lot of information. So, yeah.
March 7th. Yeah. Why did you pick that day?
The publisher picked it.
Astrologically, you should look, that was like a genius day for you to pick that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look it up. I'll talk to you about it later, but that was like brilliant. Like, I'll tell you why later, but that is a brilliant date for you to pick that.
Okay,
so well, on your publisher.
For me, well, they said, they're like, when do you want to publish? I said, how soon can we publish? And they said, well, March something. And then they said, but we should publish on a Tuesday. They said, it's just good to, and I said, okay, March 7th. Then. So that's how I picked it. The soonest we could do it, and the soonest Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be excited when you learn out all the other reasons, but that's brilliant. And I'm excited to get it. And I also want you to tell me the process of writing a book, because I don't know anyone that's written a book and I want to write one. So,
okay. Awesome. Well, it was a lot, but it's worth it, So I'll probably do a whole podcast as soon as the book comes out. Actually, that's probably what I'll do next week on Clubhouse, is talk about the whole process. So I'll break it down in that, but then I'll give you the inside track.
Yeah. Love it. Make it evergreen, the advice. Well, thanks guys for your show. Thanks, Levi.
All right. See y'all.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching at no cost, schedule a call at passiveprospectingpartner.com.